Sandra Steve used to be known for her voice. Not just any voice. A voice that could silence a noisy hall. A voice that carried heaven in its trembling notes. A voice people said sounded like prayer wrapped in melody. In church, when Sandra sang, hardened men wept. Women knelt, even children grew quiet. But that was before life broke her. Before death came uninvited. Before her own son became her greatest pain. Her husband, Mr. Steve, was a calm, loving man. The kind who held the family together with wisdom and prayer. When sickness slowly took him away, Sandra felt like the ground under her life collapsed. On the night he died, her world ended, and something dark began. Instead of responding with kindness, Sandra hardened. Pain made her sharp. Bitterness made her harsh. She began shouting back, cursing, threatening. Mother and son became fire and fire. The house turned into hell. One night, Diamond disappeared with important documents and all her savings. Another day, police came because he framed her for theft. Then came the worst lie of all. He told people she had actually murdered his father. Sandra became a woman people whispered about. Church members avoided her. Friends disappeared. Her singing ministry died. Her heart nearly died too. She often asked, "God, why is my own child destroying me?" But heaven felt silent. One evening, weak, broken, and tired of life, Sandra followed a neighbor to an open-air crusade. She didn't go for miracle. She didn't go for healing. She went because she was tired of breathing. That night, the preacher spoke about forgiveness, about surrender, about how bitterness poisons the vessel carrying it. Then he said, "Some of you are fighting battles you can't win because your heart is not yet in Christ's hands." Sandra began to shake. Tears rushed down uncontrollably. For the first time in years, she saw herself clearly, broken, angry, wounded, lost. When the altar call was made, she ran forward. And there, under the open sky, Sandra Steve gave her life to Jesus Christ. She cried like a child. She released the anger. She surrendered the pain. And something lifted. Days later, while praying alone, she remembered teachings she once learned from the Mega Voice training team. About breathing through pain, worship through brokenness, releasing the voice as an offering, not performance. With trembling lips, she sang again. At first, no sound came. Then a crack. Then a whisper. Then tears. Then suddenly, her voice flowed. Stronger. Deeper. More anointed than before. It was as though heaven returned what sorrow stole. And as she worshipped, God began to open her eyes. One night, Diamond's friend, shaken with fear, and came to confess. The son had forged documents, staged thefts, sold properties secretly, planted evidence to frame Sandra. He even lied about the father's death. The truth spread fast. Police investigated. Within days, Diamond was arrested. The same boy who mocked prayer now cried in handcuffs. People gasped. Neighbors apologized. The lies collapsed. Sandra was cleared. But Diamond lost everything. His friends abandoned him. His money was seized. His reputation destroyed. He sat in prison broken. And for the first time, reality hit him. Everyone expected Sandra to finally rejoice. After all Diamond had done, after the lies, after the disgrace, after the years of torment, they thought this was her moment of victory. But when her son was taken away in handcuffs, Sandra wept, not tears of relief, tears of a mother whose heart was breaking all over again. Every morning before the sun rose, she knelt beside her bed and whispered his name. Every night when the world slept, she cried to God, "Lord, he hurt me deeply, but he is still my son. If you forgave me, please forgive him too." While others said, "Let him suffer what he deserves," Sandra chose a harder path, the path of grace. She went to the prison again and again, held his rough hands through cold iron bars, brought him food when no one else cared, prayed when he had no strength left to believe. Each visit broke her heart, but each time she whispered the same words, "Christ paid it all." Diamond slowly changed. The anger faded, the pride broke, the wickedness melted into regret. For the first time, he truly saw the depth of his mother's love, and it crushed him. Then one day, something unbelievable happened. Authorities reopened the case, not because of new evidence, not because of influence, but because of mercy. They had watched Sandra's consistency, her forgiveness, her tears, her relentless plea for her son's life. One officer finally said, "We don't understand it, but favor is following this woman." Against every legal expectation, Diamond was released early. When he walked out of the prison gates, thin, broken, and ashamed, he couldn't stand. He collapsed at his mother's feet. Through sobs, he cried, "I destroyed you, and you saved me." Sandra lifted his face, held him close, and whispered, "Jesus saved us both." Sandra's voice returned stronger than ever. Her worship now carried pain turned into power. Her testimony broke chains wherever she sang. And Diamond followed her to church, quiet, humbled, changed. What wickedness destroyed, grace rebuilt. What bitterness killed, love revived. Yet just when life seemed peaceful again, a shocking truth was about to surface. A secret from Diamond's past, a consequence no one saw coming. A test that would challenge Sandra's forgiveness like never before. Because freedom from prison was only the beginning. But could Diamond truly escape the harvest of his former life? Watch out for part 3 as it reveals the consequence that nearly destroyed everything again. Freedom felt like a miracle. For the first few weeks after Diamond returned home, peace filled Sandra's house again. Laughter slowly returned. Prayer returned. Worship returned. Mother and son sat side by side in church, hands lifted, eyes closed, tears flowing. People whispered, "Truly God has done it." Sandra finally breathed again. She believed the storm was over. But storms don't always end quietly. Sometimes they return stronger. One evening, while Sandra was preparing dinner, loud knocks hit the door. Not gentle, not friendly, heavy, urgent. Her heart skipped. When she opened it, men stood there, not police, but angry strangers. One of them shouted, "Where is Diamond?" Another held documents in his hands. "He ruined our lives. He collected money from us before his arrest. Now he's free and thinks it's over." Sandra felt the room spin. More people gathered, some crying, some furious, some threatening. "He promised us business investments. He took our savings. He forged contracts. He disappeared." Diamond had scammed many people before prison. And now, they had come. Diamond dropped to his knees. Tears burst uncontrollably. "I was wicked. I destroyed people. I didn't think I'd live to face this." Sandra held him tightly while insults flew around them. People demanded money, justice, punishment. Some wanted to drag him away. Sandra stood between her son and the crowd, her voice shaking. "Please, give us time." But they shouted, "Time won't heal stolen futures." Sandra realized the truth. Though prison had released him, the consequences of his past were still waiting. That night, Sandra cried harder than she ever had before. "Lord, I forgave him, you freed him, but now this?" She had little money. Her singing ministry was just recovering, yet the debt was huge, impossible. Then a terrifying thought came. If she couldn't help repay, Diamond could be arrested again, and this time, mercy might not speak. The next morning, Sandra made a painful decision. She sold her jewelry, her instruments, her small savings, everything. She began singing everywhere, crusades, churches, streets, not for fame, but to raise money. Day and night. Her voice cracked, her body weakened, but she refused to stop. Diamond watched his mother slowly wasting away to fix his past, and it shattered him. One night, he fell at her feet again. "Please stop. I don't deserve this." She touched his face gently. Jesus didn't deserve the cross either, but he paid it all. Seeing her sacrifice changed Diamond completely. He went back to every person he had wronged, apologized publicly, worked menial jobs, returned what he could, accepted insults without defending himself. And slowly, hearts softened, anger melted, forgiveness spread. Some even canceled debts. People began saying, "This boy has truly changed." One church where Sandra sang heard the full story. Moved by her faith and sacrifice, they raised an offering. Not small, huge, enough to clear the remaining debt, enough to save Diamond from rearrest, enough to restore their peace. When the last payment was made, Sandra collapsed in tears of gratitude. Today, Diamond's story teaches youths to avoid the same mistakes he made. Sandra's songs now carry deeper power, not just melody, testimony, pain, victory. She often says, "Grace didn't just free my son from prison, it freed him from his past." And whenever Diamond looks at his mother, he whispers, "My life is proof that mercy works." But even as their story inspires many, one question remains. Will Diamond's transformation stand when temptation returns? Because change is tested not in peace, but in pressure. Months passed. Life slowly stabilized, the debts were cleared, the crowd stopped coming. Sandra and Diamond finally slept without fear. Church members now smiled at Diamond instead of whispering. People invited him to share his testimony. Some even called him a miracle boy. Or for the first time in years, Diamond felt respected, trusted, restored. Sandra thanked God every morning, but restoration attracts attention. And not all attention is good. One afternoon, Diamond received a call. A familiar voice, smooth, confident, dangerous. "Diamond, long time, brother." His heart froze. It was Kola, the man who introduced him to fraud years ago. The mastermind, the one who escaped prison. "I heard you're free now," Kola laughed softly. "And popular too. Church boy now." Diamond said nothing. Kola continued, "Listen, I have one clean deal, very big money, no risk, just one job and you're set for life." Diamond's hands shook. "I'm not that person anymore," he whispered. Kola chuckled. "Everyone says that when they're broke." Then he sent a photo. Bundles of cash, more money than Diamond had ever seen. "Your mother won't have to suffer again," Kola said calmly. "No more singing everywhere, no more struggling." Silence filled the room. The war in his soul that night, Diamond couldn't sleep. The old hunger returned, the desire for quick wealth. The voice that once destroyed him whispered again, "Just once. God understands. You deserve a better life." But another voice fought back. His mother's tears, her sacrifices, her prayers, her cracked voice singing to save him. "Jesus didn't deserve the cross me, but he paid it all." Diamond covered his face and cried, "Lord, help me." The test of true change. The next day, Kola showed up in person. Fresh car, gold chain, confidence. "You look like a poor church mouse now," he laughed. "I can make you rich by tomorrow." Diamond swallowed hard. Kola leaned closer. "Choose wisely. This life of suffering isn't for smart men." For a moment, Diamond almost said yes. Almost. Then he remembered prison bars, his mother collapsing in exhaustion, the debts, the shame. And suddenly something broke inside him. He stepped back. "No." Kola frowned. "I said no." Diamond repeated louder. "I'd rather be poor and free than rich and wicked." Kola's face hardened. "You'll regret this." That same week, trouble came. Diamond lost a small job he had gotten. Money became tight again, food reduced. Sandra noticed. "Is everything okay, my son?" Diamond hesitated, then told her everything. The offer, the money, the threat. Sandra held his face with trembling hands. "I am proud of you," she whispered through tears. "This is real salvation." They knelt and prayed together. But unseen forces were already planning revenge. Because when darkness loses someone, it doesn't let go quietly. Will Kola retaliate? Will Diamond's refusal bring danger? Can righteousness survive pressure? Because sometimes doing right doesn't bring peace immediately. It brings war. Watch out for part 5. The days after Diamond refused Kola were hard. Very hard. Money finished quickly, food became simple. Sometimes only Gary and water. Yet every morning, Sandra still sang. Not for crowds, not for offerings, but for God. Her voice filled the small house with worship, songs she learned and refined through Mega Voice, where she had been taught that praise is a weapon. Worship invites God's presence. A voice lifted to God never returns empty. Diamond would sit quietly, listening, even in hunger. Peace remained, because God was there. Sandra often said softly, "When you stay in God's presence, shame cannot stay with you. Shame only returns when we leave Him deliberately." But the enemy was not done. One evening, Diamond received another message. Not from Cola, from a popular club promoter. "We heard your story," the man wrote. "You have talent, strong voice, strong influence. We want you performing in clubs, big money every night." Diamond showed Sandra. She read it slowly. Club stages, drinking crowds, dirty lyrics, fast money. The same trap, just packaged differently. "They don't want your voice for God," Sandra whispered. "They want to pull you away from His presence." Diamond felt tears rise. "But Mama, we need money." Sandra held his hands. "My son, your gift is an altar. Whatever you place it on will control your life." Silence filled the room. Then she said gently, "Better to be small with God than big without Him." That night, Diamond cried like a child. "Lord, why is doing right so hard?" Sandra joined him on the floor. They sang softly together, a worship song Sandra had mastered during training. "I will not leave your presence for anything this world can give." Their voices broke with tears, and suddenly, peace flooded the room again. The next day, Cola appeared again. Angry.
"You rejected money.
You rejected money.
And now you're rejecting
now you're refusing
opportunities.
opportunities too?" he shouted. "You think God will feed you with prayers?" He stepped closer. "You either join us or I expose you everywhere. I'll tell people your past crimes. I'll destroy your reputation." Diamond trembled. Sandra stood between them. My son belongs to God now. Cola laughed wickedly. "Then watch God fail you." He walked away. And that was the moment Sandra nearly broke. That night, Sandra couldn't sleep. Fear pressed her chest. But suddenly, a song rose in her spirit. One she had written during a voice training session about trusting God in storms. She stood and sang with all her strength. "Though the waters rise, my God will not fail. Those who wait on Him shall never know shame." Diamond joined her. Their worship turned into a cry. And heaven listened. 2 days later, a call came. From a gospel concert organizer. "We heard Sandra Steve's testimony and worship online. We want her to minister across 3 cities, all expenses paid, generous honorarium." Sandra dropped the phone and wept. That same week, a church offered Diamond a paid music assistant role. Another ministry offered him free training and mentorship. Not club money, but clean money. God's money. Enough to survive. Enough to grow. Enough to restore dignity. Sandra smiled through tears and said, "See, my son, when you stay with God, He will never put you to shame." Later that month, news spread. Cola and his gang were arrested. Finally. Years of fraud uncovered. Everyone connected to him lost everything. Diamond would have been among them if he had gone back. Diamond collapsed in worship. "Lord, you saved me again." Sandra lifted her hands. One with God will never be put to shame, except when we leave His presence and chase sin. Today, Sandra now teaches worship and vocal excellence with Mega Voice Training Team. Diamond ministers through music and youth outreach. Their home is filled with praise instead of pain. Their story became proof that grace restores, that worship protects, that obedience preserves, and that no one who stays with God ends in shame. But Sandra always warns, deliverance is not the end. Staying in God's presence is the victory. Because the journey of faith doesn't end in miracles. It continues in daily choices. Watch out for part 6. Life was finally rising again. Sandra traveled singing, her voice healing hearts. Diamond served faithfully, sharpening their gift and grounding their faith. People called their story a living miracle. But miracles are often tested before they are sealed. One night after a powerful ministration, Sandra suddenly collapsed backstage. Her voice gone. Not weak. Gone. She tried to speak. Nothing came out. Panic spread. Diamond ran to her. "Mama, talk to me." Tears rolled down her face as she mouthed words without sound. They rushed her to the hospital. After tests, the doctor sighed deeply. Severe vocal cord damage from stress, exhaustion, and strain. Diamond felt the world spin. But she's a singer. Worship is her life. The doctor shook his head slowly. She must stop singing immediately, possibly forever. The word forever crushed the room. Sandra stared at the ceiling that night. Her voice, the same voice God used to save them. The same voice revived through grace. Now taken? She whispered in her heart, "Lord, not this." Diamond held her hand shaking. Why would God give us victory only to take it away? No answer came, only silence. That same week, medical bills piled up. Concerts were canceled, income stopped, pressure returned, and once again, temptation knocked. A producer approached Diamond secretly. "I can push you into secular fame fast. Forget church stories, forget gospel. Money will flow." Diamond felt the old fear rise. They needed money. They needed help. They needed a miracle. Sandra overheard the conversation. That night she cried harder than ever before. "Lord, is my sacrifice wasted? Is obedience useless?" Never let pain silence your praise, yet now, praise itself had been silenced, or so it seemed. A specialist later confirmed, her vocal cords may never fully recover. At best, she might speak normally. Singing again is highly unlikely. Diamond walked out of the hospital shaking. This was worse than prison, worse than debts, worse than hunger, because music was their testimony, their healing, their calling. That night, Diamond sat alone, bills on one side, hospital reports on the other, and the producer's card in his hand. One choice could fix everything financially. One choice could pull him away from God again. He whispered, "Lord, I'm tired." Tears dropped on the floor. Then Sandra slowly walked in, unable to speak, but she sang quietly in a broken whisper, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." Her cracked voice trembled like a dying candle. Diamond broke completely. He knelt before her. "We will not leave God's presence, even if we lose everything." They hugged and cried at mother and son and in silence. But deep inside, fear screamed, what if God doesn't heal her this time? What if the gift is gone forever? What if obedience leads to loss? The next morning, a strange call came from the hospital. "Mrs. Sandra Steve must return immediately. We found something unexpected in the scans." Diamond's heart raced. "Is it bad?" he asked. Long pause. "We're not sure yet." The line went dead, and as they rushed back, one terrifying question filled the air: is this about healing or something far worse? Because sometimes before joy comes, the valley gets darker. Watch out for the final part. The hospital hallway felt longer than ever. Sandra held Diamond's hand tightly. Every step echoed with fear. What had they found? More damage? Bad news? Diamond's heart pounded like thunder. They entered the doctor's office. The doctor looked different this time. Not worried. Amazed. "We repeated the scans," he said slowly, adjusting his glasses, "and we don't understand it." Diamond's breath caught. "Understand what, sir?" The doctor turned the screen. "The damaged tissues. They're healing rapidly. This kind of recovery doesn't happen naturally. Not this fast." Sandra's eyes filled with tears. "Doctor, and does that mean I can sing again?" He shook his head in disbelief. "Not only sing, your vocal cords are almost back to perfect condition." Silence. Then a cry broke the room. Sandra fell on her knees. "Jesus!" Diamond wept openly. 2 days later, the doctor asked Sandra to try singing softly. Her lips trembled. Fear rose. What if nothing came out? She closed her eyes and whispered, "Lord, I trust you." Then she sang, soft at first, then stronger, then full. Her voice filled the hospital ward, rich, clear, powerful. Nurses stopped walking. Patients stared. Doctors rushed in. Some cried. Some lifted hands. Worship broke out in the hospital corridor. The same voice the enemy tried to silence, God restored greater than before. Videos of Sandra singing in the hospital spread. Churches called. Conferences invited. Testimonies flooded online. People didn't just hear her sing, they felt God because obedience protects destiny. Worship invites miracles, staying in God's presence brings victory. Diamond stood beside her, tears flowing as she ministered. A month later, something unbelievable happened. The same church network that first supported Sandra contacted them again. God placed it on our hearts to fully support Sandra's ministry and Diamond's music training. Not small support. A house closer to church. Medical bills cleared. Music equipment restored. Better than what she sold. Peace settled permanently. No more running. No more fear. Sandra stood one Sunday holding the microphone. Steady, strong, shining. My life is proof, she said gently, that no one who stays with God's presence ends in shame. We only fall when we walk away deliberately into sin. But those who remain, God himself will fight for them, Diamond added through tears. I almost left God for money many times, but every time I stayed, he saved me. Sandra lifted her voice one last time in worship. Christ paid it all to him. Sin had left a crimson stain. He washed it white as snow. The congregation wept. Chains broke. Hearts returned to God. Today, Sandra ministers across nations. Diamond mentors youths through music. Raises voices raised for God's glory. Their pain became a platform. Their tears became testimony. Their obedience became victory. And Sandra always ends with these words. God is still the one who brings peace. God is still the one who settles every challenge. If you stay in his presence, joy will surely come.
Doubt in your life, he will give you life and hope again. He is God of possibility. Oh, he is God of possibility. God of possibility.